Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You look great. What have you been doing?
I found Zelthy. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe the same active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s for 80 to 90% less without insurance. All of mine shipped right to your door.
Get started with Zelthy today for just $39. Call pound 250 and say keyword CARE. That's CARE to pound 250.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of The Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I'm talking with directors Alex Mallis and Travis Wood about their new film, The Travel Companion. It recently played at the Tribeca Film Festival, should be playing some more fests coming up. The movie's so new that they don't even have a trailer for it, but at least they've got a poster. Well, it's a logo. Enjoy the logo, enjoy the interview. Thank you so much for listening. Alex and Travis, thank you so much for joining me today. Obviously, I want to talk to you about The Travel Companion, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your guys' history. I mean, because you've been both making films for a while now. So, Alex, can I start with you? What's kind of your background in filmmaking?
Like a lot of people, actually, it's not such an uncommon story. I got started through like action sports, basically filming my friends and having them film me do things, the skateboarding, skiing, and sort of shooting stuff without quite knowing what is going to be done with it, like filming before I understood that editing was a thing and making movies was a thing. But I think I had my first camera in middle school and kind of kept expanding, but it was definitely through that original path of skateboarding and skiing, because I'm from New England, that got me into this idea of documenting. Just loved documenting.
Did you go into film school, or how did you start making movies?
Well, so it's funny. I actually went to undergraduate University of New Hampshire for environmental science. I thought I wanted to be like a scientist or an environmental lawyer or something like that. But while I was there, I actually spent most all of my time at the AV Club. We had a student cable access TV station, and if I wasn't in class, I was there just like pumping out hours and hours of just horrible, unwatchable content that I hope nobody ever sees. But that was kind of where I cut my teeth. And I think somewhere around, halfway through, kind of maybe even near the end, I was like, wait a minute, I think this is actually what I like doing more. And so I thought maybe I could do like video for the environment, for environmental causes, or like advocacy video. But then I ended up moving to New York and getting an internship at this place, Union Docs, which is this documentary center in New York. And from there, just kind of kept going more and more into filmmaking, learning more, loving more, and eventually went to grad school and for filmmaking at Hunter College. And now I'm here. This is what I do.
And Travis, how about yourself? What got you involved in filmmaking?
Yeah, I think me and Alex have somewhat of a shared background in ethos, in that I started out making skateboard videos with my friends growing up. And then, came to New York and thought, I want to be a filmmaker. And, I got a job being a PA, which I learned a lot. But, at a certain point, I was like, I feel like I'm not like making films. Like, I feel like really not connected to it. And then I was like, maybe I want to make another skate video. And then kind of just stumbled into making my first documentary. And I think that was kind of when I got like more hooked, or started to like get more into like the storytelling element of it and just the like action sports element of it.
And how did you two meet?
We are both in this film collective called Meerkat Media. And so I joined, and there's something like lots of people in the group, and we all connect and meet. But Alex specifically was working on this doc like right around when I joined, called Flatbush. And he was like, I'm looking for some help on this. And I feel like we just connected on the post-production of that and had a lot of fun. And then we're like, maybe we should see each other the next night. And then actually getting towards this point where it's like, let's like co-direct and like see this thing through together.
And how did The Travel Companion come about?
it's somewhat based off a true story.
Yeah, I've been a travel companion for several years, and there came a point where I lost my benefits. And right around that time, I was with Alex at the IFF Boston Film Festival, and we were screening a short doc that we co-directed, a Dollar Pizza documentary. And I think we were just out to breakfast with his partner Dara, and I was like, "Oh man, I think these benefits are gone. Like, I don't know how many more flights I got before the switch is over." And Dara was like, "That is hilarious." And then I think the rest of the trip and bus, we were just walking around, kind of spitballing ideas about this film, and then we're like, "Yeah, like let's seriously do this. Like let's write this thing."
This was your first feature that you guys both worked on together? I mean, what's that kind of division of labor when it comes to the writing and then the directing of it?
There was 3 writers. Weston Auburn was our third. He's a good friend. And it was pretty wonderful to have 3 people. It kind of took a lot of the pressure off. I think it's writing, as any writer knows, is such a difficult process, especially when nobody's asking for it. You know, nobody's calling you every morning and saying, "Hey, did you make any progress?" Or, "Hey, you should really have it done by this time." You know, on passion projects like this. But having not one but 2 other people to create this kind of accountability network was extremely beneficial, and it allowed us to kind of come together and spitball ideas, workshop ideas, create an outline, and then delegate scenes. So rather than thinking, "Oh my God, you know, by the end of the week I need to have 30 pages written or else I'm a failure," actually you only needed to have a scene. You know, we would delegate a scene and then come back together in a week and share it around, and maybe even pass the scene off to somebody else to do the next pass on it and really share. So the writing process was pretty smooth. And then when we were directing, it was honestly equally smooth. Having 2 people to tackle any problem that comes your way was really empowering. I think a lot of people wonder, like, how did you guys tackle creative decisions? How did you guys, do you guys always agree? And that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. And that question makes sense. And I think kind of the boring answer is that, like, that just wasn't an issue for us. We just really saw eye to eye on so many things. And if one person felt passionately, there was enough trust that we could just go with that decision. But I think the thing that's kind of interesting in reflecting on this is how we handled stressful situations, or how we handled difficult situations where it's not always clear what the right answer is. And in that moment, rather than having to be this like singular director who everyone's kind of looking towards to make the decree as to what the correct path is, there was 2 of us, and we got to kind of have a wingman and have somebody to kind of rely on and lean on when the correct path forward wasn't always clear. And that was worth the price of admission.
Obviously, it's one thing to write a film, but it's such a different thing to get a go picture. I mean, how does that come about for you guys? How do you actually make this into a real project?
You know, we kind of were following some of the more traditional paths, and it came a time where, like, I had a conversation one day with someone that I remembered having almost a year prior, which is like, "Oh yeah, I'm working on this feature." And then coming out of that conversation, I just texted Alex and Wes, and I was like, "Let's set the shoot dates. Like, we have to make this thing. Like, we can't end up in that app where you end up talking about something infinitely long. Like, I really just wanted to make it." And once we had those shoot dates, we were just kind of like, we're making this no matter what. Like, even if it's me and Alex are the main actors and we're like using the phone and a couple friends, like, we're just going to make this. And I feel like luckily we didn't have to do it in that way, but it just kind of having that like determination of like, it's happening, I think helped get more investors, get more things, more grants. Like, it just became a bigger thing, like, kind of quickly once we added in our heart that we were making this thing.
It manifested.
I was going to say, it sounds like you guys willed this into existence.
We did. We joke about that all the time. We're like, if you just believe something hard enough, it's kind of wishy-washy. It's like something you tell a little kid, but like, man, if that is not true, we actually, one of the characters in our previous short documentary, one of the subjects in the Dollar Pizza documentary, he's eating pizza and he's talking about pizza. And then he said something like, just manifest your life, and things that are not possible will become possible. And I think when we screen that, there's like sometimes like a little bit of a chuckle in the crowd, because it's not because he's wrong, but just because it's like kind of cute. But man, if we don't kind of live that every day, that's truly our approach. I mean, Travis mentioned the shoot dates. It was like, we need to just pick shoot dates. And then the way that changes the way you talk about the film, the way that you talk to others about the film, it becomes real. And when it becomes real, people want to get on board. And when people want to get on board, things start to happen. Resources start to become available in ways that they weren't. Crew becomes available in ways that they weren't. Locations, even funding, all these things started to become real because we spoke about them like they were real.
Tell me about the casting process, because obviously most indie films live and die by their actors, even more than the direction, just because the performances are key. And you've got some great performances in here.
Yeah, we worked with an incredible casting director, Alan Scott Neal, who Wes and I previously met at the Austin Film Festival, and he's a professional. Like he really is a professional with great taste, and he just like brought us just awesome options and like really kept mining, everyone that was out there to find like this perfect trio. And so we got to give a lot of credit to him for kind of bringing this together, and not even just the trio. I'll be kind of more, supporting cast. He also had a heavy hand there, and they're all so good.
Yeah, one thing that Travis said to me early on in the process is like the best directing is going to happen at the casting stage. Like, we need to find people who are these characters, who understand these characters, because if we don't do it there, it's going to be really difficult to try and make, directorial changes on set or even in rehearsal. And so having somebody like Alan Scott Neal, and then being able to talk with him and Travis about who these people are, and get great options and people who really understood what the film was and what the dialogue was, made all the difference.
What we got in the tape was the character. So I think a lot of it was just reminding them like where we're at in the story and kind of the vibe. But like, I think as far as like bringing those characters to life, they really all brought that. Like even Anthony's tape, I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this is the best. I didn't even picture Bruce to be this good. And it was like, wow, like I was literally blown away at the tape. So then when we got to set, it was just like, so yeah, just do your thing, and we'll kind of, help where we can.
I was curious about directors who are like these stories of directors who like pull their actors aside and they're like, imagine you're a baby bird and your mother has gone for food and you're all alone. We didn't do a lot of that stuff. It was mostly just, like Travis said, helping people remember the context of the scene they're in and the energy that they should have. But they were so talented. We honestly didn't need to do a whole lot.
Were there any bad things that happened on the shoot? Any challenges? I mean, this is a first time shoot for y'all. I imagine it had to be a little bit of an odd experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly a sprint. So I think with every indie film, it's like there's more pages to shoot than there is like time in the day. And so I felt like there was certainly days that come to mind where it was like hard to even really sit with the scene. I feel like because you're trying to watch and really be in the moment, but then you're thinking like, okay, we just got to like get this so we can like run and do this next thing. And so those were the most stressful days for me, is where we just felt like it was like not enough time to fully trust or like know exactly how it landed for you in the moment, and just kind of having to jump to the next thing.
We had an amazing team. Our AD, Sarah Klein, she took the scripts and the locations and worked it into a schedule that was brilliant. It was so thoughtful, and it took into account where the actors would be in their journey on the film. It took into account exhaustion level. It took into account, the obvious things that an AD should do, but it was just so skillful, time of day. And so having that map to follow was critical. Same thing with our DP. He, was really insistent upon shot listing. Travis and myself went out and shot listed like crazy and had this, big shooting schedule. And our production manager, Jay Ellis, she was just like always a step ahead. And so a lot of the shoot was pressed for time, as any indie, but it really felt like we were just going step by step, and we had this map. So it felt like, I felt lucky with the smoothness that we were able to achieve at so many different stages, when on productions in the past have been crazy. And I was just like, I really hope it doesn't turn out like that. And we really managed to avoid a lot of that like classic pitfall of a indie where you're just sort of doing it live, as they say.
Yeah, I definitely gotta shout out Sarah. And just most days honestly did go like, we had the plan and just executed them perfectly. Like that. Big shout out to Sarah.
Tell me a little bit about your post-production process. How did that go for you?
That was also very smooth. Like, we I think we manifested so many good things, and our post-production was one of them, where our good friend Brian Chang is just, so good at editing and comes from this documentary background, which I think just makes him work a bit faster than others. I don't know. It just felt like it happened so fast and so smooth, where we started getting him footage during the shoot. And it wasn't too long after we wrapped that he had us over and we just sat down and watched it edit. And I was like, oh my God, we have a movie here. Like, he really puts in that work to bring the scenes to life. It was not a rough cut by many means. Like, I think that first view, there's music, there's some sound design, there's things that really make you feel like you are just watching the movie.
Yeah, we went fast. I really like that. That is something that I didn't totally realize at the time, and in hindsight, it's crazy. We wrapped in November of 2024, and we premiered last week in June of 2025. And so to have that, like Travis said, we had a rough cut, then we had a fine cut, then we were submitting, then we were accepted, then we were making DCP, and then we're premiering, doing all the post-production. It's just like, it's fast. And I am not mad at it. It's definitely a satisfying feeling to be able to not have to sit on something for a long time, which I think is usually the case with any film, short or feature. Is like you finish it and then you have to wait 6 months or a year before you even know what the next step might be. But for us, it's just been like one thing after the other. And I don't think that would have been possible without Brian's skill and speed.
When's the first time you get to watch this with an audience?
We had a small rough cut screening with the Brooklyn Filmmakers Collective, which was very enlightening, with a sort of extended, a fine cut or an advanced rough cut. But no one really saw it until that premiere. The only people that saw it were the people that worked on it in post, sound and color. And then that was our first time watching it with a big crowd. And it was crazy. It's a wild feeling. I'm trying to it's hard to put words to, but when you watch something 100 times, which we did, it takes on a different shape. You're obviously not seeing it for the first time, and the way that the performance is hit and the way that the story moves, it's a much different feeling, and you kind of lose touch with that, fresh eyes. And so sitting in a theater, a big theater at Tribeca with, hundreds of people, friends, family, and strangers in the audience, you suddenly feel this new feeling again. It's almost like a shortcut to watching it for the first time, where you kind of feel the way that it plays. And it was a little jarring for me, honestly. I enjoyed it immensely, but it was a strange feeling.
I was just so happy. I watched it next to my sister, and I think just even, you hear a lot of stuff in the room, but honestly, just hearing her chuckles and her thoughts and her little commentary, and I feel like she was even picking out stuff about me, Alex, and Wes, and she's like, oh, I know these Easter eggs because I know you guys. And that was just, I just felt so proud and happy and grateful for that moment.
When did you guys officially start working on this project? When was that conversation about you losing your travel benefits?
That was April 2023 was that festival.
Alex, you are not wrong. This thing seems to have come to life so quickly. That's wild.
It kind of speaks to this mentality that we had in our previous short documentary, Dollar Pizza documentary. And the philosophy for that, really quick, was let's run to camera for 2 weeks, and that's our shoot window. And then let's pick 3 weeks, and that's our edit window. And that is what we will do. It's kind of like a backwards approach with documentary, where it's normally like, well, let's shoot till we have it. But it worked amazingly, and it kind of took the pressure off and sort of inverted the dynamic. And we did the same thing with this feature, where it was like our big goal was to make this. There was nothing that was going to stop us from making this. And it happened relatively quickly.
I want to speak to the power of accountability just in pushing something forward. I think having Wes and Alex in the writing process, just starting off where it's maybe I'll be comfortable disappointing Alex, but I can't disappoint Wes and Alex. I got to get my part done. And so I feel like we kind of found this dynamic early on in writing that we were able to bring to the producing element, which was hey, here's what we need to do, and we're checking in on Friday. So I feel like those emails going out, those follow-ups, those location visits, we always kind of were week by week able to just push it forward with this, with these three heads. And so that, I think, is what made it happen so fast. If it was just me, I know there's no chance we'd be sitting right here. And it took all three of us being kind of committed to each other and not letting each other down every week.
What's next for you? What's next for the film and what's next for you guys?
The film will, it's a bit of an unknown. The indie landscape is not as flush with cash as it used to be, or so we hear. So we're just, we're knocking on doors. We're right now, we're in the moment. We're at Tribeca and we're celebrating the film and trying to get as many eyes on it as we can. And we're eyeing some future festivals. A couple are starting to fall into place, and we've got some ideas for international premiere and hopefully a robust national run and then distribution. And we want to give it the best life we can, as any filmmaker would. And so we're working through that process right now. And then next, Travis and I are working on a new feature. We're writing a new feature together called Watching Fire. It's actually, there's a little bit of an Easter egg in the film, which we created as like a bit of an accountability. If it exists in this first film, well, we certainly have to make it now. When he's walking into the theater, our character, there's a marquee, a movie marquee, and the name of the film we entered into the marquee is the name of the film that we're working on now. We're working on that one, and we'll see how fast, if we can go as fast as we did on this one. Certainly going to try.
Yeah, I think we hear about the expected route of films at this scale or from this, in the indie landscape, but I think we're both excited to be like, we are the exception. No matter what comes next, I feel like we can continue to manifest. I think we're going to have all the things that every bigger film has, and I'm excited for the journey of that.
Is there a good place out online for people to keep up with you guys and keep up with the film in case it's playing near them?
Yeah, we have, we're doing a lot of social media at the Travel Companion Film, and it is the same website. So www.travelcompanionfilm.com. Everyone on socials, everything. So we're out there.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, the Travel Companion Film.
Alex, Travis, thank you so much for your time today. This was so great talking with you guys, and thank you for making the Travel Companion. I had a great time watching it.
Mike, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you, man.
The man wanderlust, he roams so free, with a smile on his face, a heart full of glee. He's traveled every road, sailed every sea, but the time is running short, can't see always. Take your leave, oh, don't be shy, for the world awaits. Travel high and fly.